I was surprised when the Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney, spoke at Davos 3 weeks ago now. He made public what I believe most of the world already knew. His comments, just to give clarity, he raised what I found very shocking, an old philosophy by someone called Thucydides, which was a historian who wrote about the Peloponnesian Wars between Athens and Sparta thousands of years ago. And he was talking about the rise of great powers. But what Mark Carney's comments were really about were the United States and the approach that the Trump administration has been taking with regard to engagement globally with other countries. And that it was a great power forcing on others what they would want to force, and other countries having to accept whatever was being forced upon them. And Prime Minister Carney's comment had stated that the entire concept of what is called the rules-based international order, which is what the United States would always proclaim to be the basis for checking power, meaning that after the fall of the Berlin Wall and after the dissolution of the Soviet Union back in the early 90s, there were concerns around the world that the United States, now being the sole superpower, would abuse that power. And the United States at the time said, you do not need to worry about our abuse of that power because we have these international rules that we will follow. And those international rules will make sure that we are we are a good steward. We are a good country taking on the responsibility of the world. I would say that by 2000 or thereabouts, it started to become clear that those rules were in place, but that the United States would only follow the rules when it was convenient. If the rules were not convenient, they would not be followed. Most evidently, you will see this in the war in Iraq in 2003. In fact, the rules were ignored again during the global financial crisis in 2008. So there's a saying in English that goes, rules for thee, not for me. And what happened in around 2008 was, not including Europe, not including the United States, the rest of the world finally came to the understanding, okay, America's going to do whatever it's going to do, and we can't do anything about it. And we're like, oh, most global nations and most people just recognized that as a fact and did what they could to best survive or to thrive or succeed or whatever the case may be. But that was the reality for most of the world. When Prime Minister Carney spoke in Davos, he only was communicating to the American people and to the and the Canadian people, but also to the European citizens. Because in those three areas, there was this belief that, no, America follows the rules and the rules-based order is there. And Mark Carney came out and said, literally, we played along these rules knowing that these rules were never really enforced. So that was where the rupture came, is he called out what the vast majority of the world already knew. They already knew that the United States was an empire. It was an empire that had finally, as I like to tell clients, they had removed the veil of the facade, that there was no real rules to check the United States. They were going to do anything that they wanted to do. And now we're seeing this play out on a near weekly basis. As an American, I'm very despondent about how this has changed, not just within America, but the perceptions of America from everyone outside. It does not, in my opinion, end well. I don't know how it ends. I don't know when it ends. But as I've said before, operating at a government level from a concept of scarcity is not sustainable. And Mark Carney was the first leader globally to come out and simply admit what almost everybody else already knew.